Okay, so we can go ahead. It's 11:03. We have a lengthy agenda and a lot of things to go over, so we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'll call to order the Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting. It is September 22nd, and welcome everyone. So we'll go ahead and start with the beginning of the agenda, welcome, introductions, and announcements. So I'll go ahead and start with the members. I am Nicole. I'm the chair of Policy and Budget Subcommittee.
Justin Van Zerber, Vice Chair, West County.
Patrice Guillory, Office of Reentry and Justice.
Garyana Youngblood, Office of Reentry and Justice.
Okay. Thank you. And are there any announcements?
The only announcement I have is that ORJ is hosting a restorative justice community stakeholder workshop next Tuesday. We're really looking forward. This will be from 9:30 to 12:30 at the Rise Commons Center in Richmond. Really looking forward to engaging a lot of our stakeholders and envisioning how restorative justice or restorative practices can be further embedded in a variety of systems and also in the community, but then also to learn where it exists, how can we expand upon them and things of that nature. So this is in part effort toward expanding or launching, if you will, our restorative justice initiative. There will be other events that will come later this year. We'll also have community surveys that will go out. So we'll certainly need support from the community to push it out as far and wide as possible. And we're currently engaging in stakeholder interviews from key informants, if you will, that represent different layers of not only just the justice system, but then also our adjacent systems like your school system and things like that. So it is certainly picking up, and we look forward to bringing more of that information back to both CAB and just engaging the community overall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or announcements? Sorry. Hearing none.
Oh, sorry, one more. CCP meetings next Sunday.
That's Friday.
I don't know if anybody wants to come.
I would not be there with you
on a Sunday. I'm trying to get to brunch on Sunday. CCP meeting will happen on Friday, September 29th from 10:30 to 12. This will be a really great meeting for anyone that's interested in CAB, because one, we have our CAB applicants who will be approved, yay. Okay. And then also there will be discussions or review of financial reporting of AB 109 funds that were spent over the last fiscal year. So typically throughout the year, each CCP meeting would usually have like a quarterly update, but that hadn't happened in quite some time. So it's going to do a look back at the past fiscal year. And then there'll also be an update in terms of next steps around the one-time allocation, which I know you guys are going to talk about today. So anyway, it's going to be a very hot pipe CCP meeting.
Yeah. All right. Any other announcements? Going once? Going twice? Okay. So we'll go ahead and move right along. Open it up for public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board and not on the agenda. We do have one submission from Rachel Rosekind that's unable to attend today. We can make this available to the public after the meeting. I will read some parts of the public comment that she actually submitted. I will not read the whole thing, and again, it will be made available. So I'll initially start with the beginning, and it's in regards to the CAB priorities and process for AB 109 excess funds allocations. So she did wanted to highlight that there was a note from Octavia E. Butler wrote, "All good things must begin. For those returning home, to begin is to begin again. But this time, the stakes, obstacles, and roadblocks are even greater. The psychic and emotional toll of incarceration is often stifling and stifling. Thank you. if there are people everywhere, often in position of power or control, who have made up their mind about you before you even said a word. Trauma and stigma are everyday reality, so our strength and I can't even talk anymore. Strength and stamina. I'll jump down to another important part. Post-release is a stressful, confusing, and challenging period. Something as basic yet profound as unrestricted regular cash payments, otherwise known as guaranteed income, can transform the entire experience. This degree of economic security doesn't make all the other barriers and problems go away, but it does alleviate a principal source of anxiety, disorientation, and depression. It's like oxygen, which is why it's no surprise that guaranteed income participants report being able to breathe. A major outcome. Guaranteed income can be a critical support within a border system designed to actually increase a formerly incarcerated person's chance of successful community integration and individual accomplishment. I did want to point out that she did list some different pilots that was taking place within her submission. So she indicated that there are hundreds of guaranteed income pilots which have launched in Stockton, Seed Pilot, which began in 2019 and conclude in 2021. And there's data around there. And then also there are 5 other pilots, 2 in Contra Costa County and Alameda County, that directly serve formerly incarcerated people. Some examples are Community Works West Restorative Reentry Fund, Rubicon's Returning Home Career Grant, Just Income, Chicago Future Fund, and Step Up. What's that?
Durham.
Durham. Thank you. I was going to say something else.
Yeah.
And she believes that the guaranteed income pilot would be an excellent use of AB 109 excess funds. So again, I won't read the whole thing, but I just wanted to point out that her submission, some ideas that she has, some pilots, and we will make this available to the public to be able to read the entire submission.
Can I highlight one quick thing? under
Sure.
that? She also suggested that 1.8 million allocation from the 15 million excess fund could be extended or could extend $1,000 per month direct cash payments to 100 individuals for 18 months,
Okay.
the typical length of most pilots. Even a smaller pilot at 50 participants, tremendous good. So she did give some numbers here of potential, what a potential pilot would look like and what the cost would be.
Okay. Thank you for pointing
Mhm.
it out.
So I love this idea, and I think we heard it from other community groups. Has
Mhm.
it been researched if AB 109 funds can be utilized as direct payment?
So, I'm sorry,
Has
that's the
it
question.
been like researched that that's an allowable cost for AB 109 funds?
I think, allowable costs for,
Because it's state funding, right? So there's restrictions on how it can be used.
yeah, and mostly it's been, relegated, I would say, toward programs and services. You could identify this as a potential, since she's calling it a pilot, that can be administered through either a county agency
Right.
or through some
Yeah,
provider.
yeah.
That would then do some monitoring of it, have some evaluation of it. And she lifted up agencies that we currently work with. Rubicon is an
Right.
AB 109
Right.
provider, funded provider for employment, has been looking into this, but I'm not quite certain as to what's their funding source for it. Community Works West has been very active in the county as well. So, and I guess it would depend on how it's actually structured, but I don't think there's anything that would preclude utilizing it, at least to pilot an effort.
Yeah.
In terms of its ongoing, I don't know what limitations might be on that one. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other additional questions or announcements? Hearing none. We will move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes from our August 25th, 2023 CAP and Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting, which is attachment 1, page 4 through 6. So we can take a second to review that.
I think it all looks great. The only question I had was under next steps, the last bullet. Ariana, it looks like you put review budget with Patrice. I don't remember what that was.
That was me to give you an update. I'll give an update
Oh,
today.
cool,
Kind of make
perfect.
sure that we were on track in reference to the budget that we're supposed to submit.
We're submitting a budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of our flow too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
All right,
We've been so focused on the recommendation, so I will give an update on
cool,
that.
great.
But yeah, that's part of our job too.
All right, like it. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, any other questions regarding the previous agenda?
I'll make a motion to pass.
And I second that motion.
Okay, I'll take a vote. Nicole,
Aye.
Justin,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, awesome. Okay, so moving right along. So agenda item number 4, to discuss our revised AB 109 excess fund recommendations of the CAP 4 priority areas. So on our last meeting, we split up the 4 recommendations. I covered the housing and behavioral health, and Justin, you covered employment pre and post release. What page? That's going to start on attachment 2, page 7 through 12. You can scroll down there and we can start with the first one, which is housing. And so what I did is based on our last discussion, I didn't change the initial. You can read that from here.
Me? A
Yeah.
little bit. I can't.
No, you see me squinting.
I got contacts in, that's why.
So I'm looking like he's really reading that from this distance. And I
Thank you,
can't.
Ariana.
But it is for those that have eyes like me. It's on page 8. So I did keep the initial first paragraph and then I added on. So we can go ahead and read through that. Let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything that you think that should be changed or recommendation that you may have. I combined our initial recommendation with some wording from our AB 109 access funds recommendation.
Love the flexible funding. Two things stand out to me. I think this is really great.
Like, where are you?
Huh?
Where are you?
Well, I'm gonna skip back up. So
Okay.
there's a sentence that says, evident in the survey's feedback is a particular need for permanent supportive housing tailored for justice populations living with disabilities. With those with significant behavioral health challenges. I think we heard that, but I think we also heard that there needs to be, or they would like to have housing that's dedicated to that population specifically, right? So like, one of the things I heard from H3 is that they have some housing available, but it's mixed use. And so there's different populations that are integrating, and there's not enough dedicated housing just to justice involved individuals. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I don't feel like it's
Let me
spelled out.
find where you are.
So I think my recommendation would just be to make it a little more specific of like increasing the available housing stock for this specific population.
Okay. So where are we? Service feedback is particularly for plans for housing tailored for just and population disabilities to include those. So instead of saying there is a dire need for stable, we could say there is a dire need for stable housing options for an increase. Say that last line you just said again. How you said
It's
it.
gone.
I know it's gone. I know it's gone.
Dariana's got it recorded though, so we're okay. I think it was like increase available stock of housing. And maybe it's just room, and I don't mean to be discriminating against people with disabilities, but maybe it's eliminating that. Because I think what we're doing here is really narrowing the field to that subset of a population within this population. But in reality, we don't even have enough housing for all of the justice population.
So the reason why it was broken down, so you are correct in your statement. But the reason that we've added in disabilities, because that was one of our part of our other recommendations as well. So we wanted to highlight that. So we do know that there is a very shortage of housing across the board as well, but there is a dislink when it comes to individuals with disability, SUD, and core-born disorders. So based on the feedback from behavioral health, there's a two-part. There's housing as a whole, and then that sector there. So it was highlighting that piece in there as well to make sure that not left out.
Got it.
Because that is one of the issues.
Yeah.
Yes, we do look at them as justice impact as well, but there's other barriers that they're faced.
Right.
We need to make sure that we make that connection because they're not getting access to those other
Got it.
services.
Okay.
So I figured instead of mentioning housing several times, even in that section for the behavioral health part, I just included the housing all in one area.
Here.
And then when we get to recommendation number 5, I'll focus on the other key areas
Got it.
there. So that's why I added it up here. So we can find a way to incorporate both those pieces where it highlights individual disabilities as well as just the justice impacted as a whole. That will be good because I don't want to, even though we know what we're saying, if we don't highlight and break it down,
So
we can miss that part.
I think that's great, and thank you for the clarification. So maybe it's as simple as that, what you just said, for
I don't
justice.
know what I just said.
I got it. For justice involved populations as a whole and justice involved populations living with disabilities. So it's
As
like,
a
hey,
whole and Brianna, will you need me to update this and send this back to you? Or you got it?
you're muted.
You muted.
Sorry, I'm taking notes on what you guys are saying, so.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Because I walk out here and sometimes I can't read my chicken scratch, so. Okay, all right,
Great.
okay, good pointer, okay.
The rest of it looks awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any feedback, Patrice?
No, I think it's pretty straight
Yeah.
to it.
Okay,
Good job.
thank you.
Yeah.
I be sweating bullets trying to work on this stuff.
Well, the only thing I would add is that I think a lot of these, they're making like slight modifications. A lot of these recommendations, generally speaking, are still like, they're just still, I don't want to say relevant, they still stand, I
Right.
guess is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. So there's not really a whole, that's why I say I don't really have much to add to it because.
Same.
Right.
Still gotta do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just excited because our goal was just to make sure that we incorporate some of the words from the access funds that we had, since it's a little bit different. So I'm excited to expand on it a little bit more and hit those key parts that
Definitely.
we really want to focus on. So we didn't have our full CAB meeting yet. That will be Monday. So those sections 2, it was 3 and 4 will have to come back on our next meeting for those because we did not get feedback from full CAB yet. Okay, then so moving on to page 10, recommendation number 5. I left my glasses in the car. So same with this one, I kind of left the original because we wasn't taking it away and kind of just mixed in some of our key points from our other recommendations.
Scroll down a little bit more, Garyana. Or the other way. There we go. That's fine. Yeah. Perfect.
What's the next page too?
Mhm.
Kyle, can you scroll down? Sorry, again.
Yeah, again, this is great. The only question I have is, Brian, if you can scroll back up.
Aren't you here? Because I cannot see that.
So in the second paragraph, you talk about the CAB survey is highlighted. You talk about the post and pre-release care,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna spell it out at a later date as its own individual recommendation. Do
Okay.
you want it have it layered in both? Like, do you want it here as well as having it as its own?
Go ahead.
Excited. I got excited.
Go ahead.
Sometimes I have to forget I'm not a cab member.
Go ahead.
Please.
I
Value your opinion.
I think that's a great idea. So a couple of things are coming to mind on this one. This particular recommendation is it long and short of it is really just trying to invite further conversation around this so we can essentially identify who among the justice involved population are living in these living with these sort of disabling conditions, right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to identify the population itself and the numbers. And based on that, so that's that data that you're always talking about, Nicole. So and then based on that, whether or not there are sufficient resources in or identifying where those resources may exist to make sure that those folks are plugged in. With you highlighting the pre and post release piece, I like to say that this is probably where CalAIM also has where there's potential to leverage that,
Okay.
because they're specifically identifying folks who would be considered part of their enhanced care management or case management element to their work, which is providing very intensive case support and care coordination for very vulnerable individuals in anticipation of them being released. So I anticipate that those that will fall into that category will likely be individuals with
Correct.
some sort of disabling condition.
Got it.
So as a matter of fact, I couldn't attend that meeting yesterday, but there was CalAIM is health services. I'll say that the county's health department that is coordinating the CalAIM effort here in the county that has the justice involved kind of offshoot to it, is hosting regular pre-release work group meetings, and they involve a lot of the sort of health services units that are going to be critically important, to include detention health. And then they've also involved a lot of the in custody programs and some of the reentry providers in the community. But to my understanding, a good chunk of that conversation right now is really in the rollout of county health's process and ensuring that those individuals get linked to health services, both while they're in custody, while they're out, and that it's covered through Medi-Cal. So the connecting them then to ancillary services, such as like I assume public benefits would be included in that, but anything related to, as well as housing to a degree, but anything else like maybe family reunification or civil legal aid stuff, or I don't know how much of those elements are tied in just yet, but I anticipate at some point they will be looking into that, because those will be some needs that are going to come up. And this is the same folks that are doing the which I've shared before, mostly in the programs and services subcommittee, but they're engaging in what they're calling the consumer feedback project. I forget the full name, but that's who we're coordinating with, or at least attempting to coordinate with, to get feedback from individuals while they're inside, well, So we were all doing this in custody survey on behalf of CAB.
Yeah.
They're doing focus groups, and so we're gonna try to coordinate. We haven't yet gotten the actual, the raw information from the first set of focus groups that they've had. Hopefully we'll get that soon. But nonetheless, we're all trying to stay in communication with each other to kind of know what's going on. But their planning is more or less focused on that, but it's gonna touch the people that we're lifting up in this recommendation.
Am I able to share as being part of that work group?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
She covered all of it.
Okay. I just wasn't at the meeting.
No, and not being there, but just to
Yeah.
give an update on where they are. She is absolutely right. They're focused more on the health process of it right now. The goal is to eventually get to where you are when it's to touching the reentry programs and things of that nature. However, they're focused more on what happens when someone goes to custody, gets I don't want to say enrolled. Someone goes to get assessment, ensuring they're connected to all the health coverages and connected. They are talking to Medi-Cal as well, so they're at that part now. In reference to our population. So when I put this here, I had that in the back of my mind. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I could spell out Cal-Aim as I was writing.
I think
it
we
out, so I put
should,
visionary.
because it is was a statewide effort. Every county has to,
Okay.
is mandated to really roll this thing out.
Yeah.
They will be applying for grants to do further planning. It definitely, sheriff's office is obviously involved, probation's office is involved because it is affecting the juvenile hall as well to make sure services are covered for
Mhm.
Medi-Cal for the young people that are incarcerated. So I think as an update, if you will, to this, highlighting then the intersection with what CAB is wanting to see be done with this particular population, making sure that they are reached while they're in custody and identified, and then maintain services or continuum of services as they're released. That's really important. And I would even go even a step further to say that you want to ensure that adequate resources post-release are sufficiently made available for folks with disabling conditions. So that includes that housing element, any additional income that's necessary. So like if a lot of these folks may very well end up being on some kind of fixed income, public assistance, that's where maybe even this guaranteed income piece can help out as well. So and like I mentioned, the Cal-Aim effort is for the most part right now ensuring that there's a continuation of health services, but that's only one element, right?
Right.
It's got to be other pieces to it that's going to be necessary. And those are the social services. You want to make sure that those are adequately made available to that same group.
Okay.
Last time we talked about like highlighting, because we are kind of repurposing a lot of these,
Mhm.
like highlighting some of the successes that we've seen over the year. Do we want to call out Cal-Aim as that? Like this is a success that we've seen and we want to continue to explore like what you've laid out here.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say success yet because it just started,
Okay.
but certainly an exciting time.
Got it.
Because, well, I guess it is an accomplishment in and of itself because there was a time where you're in custody, your Medi-Cal benefits are off.
Right.
Right.
You don't get it. So now the state has acknowledged that that is a problem and we need to change our system in order to ensure that folks get the benefit, the coverage that they need so they can actually access those resources. So yes, it's an achievement and it's a ripe opportunity for other services that in the past probably would not have been covered through Medi-Cal, now can be. More folks get more access to coverage. Services can be continued whether you're inside or out. So it then forces all of us locally to further integrate what we're doing, rather than just having these like pockets of programs that are grant funded and blah, 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 because the Medi-Cal is going to be, they have to build Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
So it's a continuation of services and continued funding that will be available. So yes, and I would
Yeah.
say, yeah.
I mean, one of the key takeaways that I took from that whole meeting was, I've been just talking about data.
Yeah,
And they had admitted how they know that their data right now, they know is inaccurate, meaning that they want to make sure they understand how many of the population actually has Medi-Cal, don't have Medi-Cal, actually need Medi-Cal, and figure out a better way to assess individuals to get them set up for Medi-Cal. So they know that when a person is brought to the jail, that information that they get at that time has not always been right. And that's across the board, not just with Medi-Cal, that's with any program, because we're relying on the person, to be honest.
self-reporting,
It's
yeah.
all self-reporting, so they are looking in ways, so how do we validate that these numbers are correct so that we can have adequate funding and figure out what programs needed. So I love talking about data. So it was,
Yeah.
it was good to hear them say that they are still looking at the process, but they're taking that pause right now because they want to figure that out first. We just want to help with that process. and
Yeah.
So
And that makes
Um,
sense because with any positive policy change means that you gotta untangle
all
the
the way.
knot
Yep.
that you have to make it actually come to fruition. So I totally get that because if as a system, we can't bill appropriately and we can't fully know where this person stands in terms of coverage,
Right,
then you really can't offer them service.
right.
Which is, yeah, that's a tough. That's
I'm
a tough
hoping-
track.
Well, I'm hoping that the team did a really good initiative in reference to going in and doing the not the work groups, but the you just said it,
Focus groups.
focus groups.
Mhm.
And the outcome that they got, that they reported, was amazing. So a lot of people spoke up. A lot of the inmates spoke up about their
good.
services. So that was the second part I was excited about, because that was one of their key concerns is, are they going to participate? And they did.
Mhm.
So that data, I can't wait to get that data.
And that's probably even without incentives, because
It was without incentive.
Yeah.
Also,
they're used to, so the group, the consulting group that was conducting the focus groups is RDA, Resource Development Associates, and originally they were going to approach it by seeing if they could provide incentives to engage, because typically that's what you do for focus groups,
Right.
right? And they had to be reminded, this is jail. Can't pass out gift card inside, or it's not gonna go down like that. But nonetheless, but just the fact that people wanted to know what they thought or to give feedback was enough of an incentive.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing it's so seldom that they're
Mhm.
being asked. And that's also reflective of, so we shared this in programs and services yesterday. This is also reflective of CAB's in custody survey. We did receive 97 responses
wow.
across all three jails. And then we
That's
heard
great, yeah.
that more wanted to participate after our cutoff time because they had just heard about it.
Uh-huh.
So there is definitely, I think, between what we're hearing, what health services is seeing, my understanding the sheriff's office is actually now even interested even further of how to have a continuous feedback loop going, continually asking folks that are in custody, what are their needs? What are they looking for? What is needed inside? What is it they're anticipating they'll need coming outside? And I think we're starting a kind of chain of communication
Yeah.
with both there inside. Yeah.
I just gotta take all of that.
Sorry.
You got that, Ariana?
You got that? Just plug it in there somewhere.
The recording got it all, not me.
All right. Well, thank you for pointing that part out as well. And you can add that in there. Anything else?
No, I think the rest is great.
Okay, dokie. All right, so now I'm gonna pass it over to you for the last two. And I think
Yeah.
you see the yellow is where I kind of dropped in those parts.
Definitely.
If
So
that-
Ariana, can you share what I sent you today? And sorry for not getting this ahead of the agenda.
Oh, is it some written notes you have?
Yeah,
Okay, because we didn't
Put it on there.
Yeah, we can't technically share screen, so
Okay.
if you could just at least share it
Say it.
verbally, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's it. No, it's my bad for not getting it in on time.
Ooh.
Now, if it's
Right.
something that's already publicly posted or anything elsewhere, then we could totally
It's
pull it
not,
up. But
it's all
it's all from your brain, I know.
in there somewhere. All right, so I will speak slowly so that
Thank you.
try to stay together here. All right, so I left the same heading of increased county employment opportunities and hiring among justice involved population. This priority remains as one of CAB's recommendations due to its importance in the success of individuals returning to our community. The opportunity to earn a livable wage to support themselves and their family is vital to reduce recidivism across the county. CAB recommends the county develop an initiative to expand employment opportunities and hiring practices for the reentry population, similar to other efforts in neighboring counties such as Alameda and San Francisco. Through policy actions, Contra Costa can, you can stop me now.
Oh, no, I was just saying I like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Through policy actions, Contra Costa can increase the number of public employees who have been justice involved, signaling a trust that our rehabilitation system is working to meet everyone's needs. CAB welcomes public discussions on the ways in which the county can streamline opportunities for hiring and job placement among the justice involved population. An assessment should be completed to identify departments that can prioritize hiring of this population. I'll stop there and have a second paragraph. Thoughts? Keep going?
Mhm.
Okay. Additionally, CAB documented the need for additional funds in employment services to meet the increased cost experienced in our community through increasing wages for participants. As the cost of living continues to increase in California, individuals cannot be expected to live multiple weeks or months while participating in training programs that do not offer enough money to address their basic needs. The county should explore innovative ways to support the transition to gainful employment through wraparound services, flexible spending for providers to combat one-off barriers, and guaranteed income.
You actually covered all that.
Okay, so you're including guaranteed income.
I'm just kind of dropping it.
I see.
Yeah, I think that they. Did you just?
Yeah.
I was hoping that you would catch up.
Yeah.
Throw that in there.
Cool. Yeah.
Anything else that stands out?
No, well, actually, no, that's why I was looking at. You actually covered, I wasn't sure if you had those bullets, so you actually covered each one of them. So you integrated that into your.
I got you.
So if I heard it correctly, guaranteed income and then expansion of the original recommendation of like expanding pathway to county employment.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then
Then you mentioned one
assessing as
other.
well, like what departments can prioritize hiring. I
Uh-huh.
think that's something that's key. It's
Yeah.
like, we need to understand where these jobs are that these individuals would have access to. And if we don't understand that, how can we prioritize
Yeah.
hiring?
almost a matrix too, because a matrix between what jobs are available across different departments and then which one, and of those jobs, which would be, what's the right word for it? I don't want to say permissible, but that's the only word I can.
But that's, I mean, you're taking.
Permissive
Right.
suited for someone with the
different
criminal
background.
justice history.
Can we expand to, I mean, not that, that is the key point. You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's
But
low
also-
hanging fruit.
Right, but also looking at those particular jobs, what, so yes, looking at those jobs that individuals that are impacted that they can have,
Mhm.
but taking a look back at those jobs that they're saying that they can't, why? Like if it's not tied, and I'm just gonna say it blunt out, you help me.
Sure.
But if it's not tied to the type of charge that they have, can we start looking at jobs that they probably can work? Because a lot of the jobs in the industry are cut off just because you're incarcerated, but they do have abilities to work. So how do I say that's really?
I don't know, because even
like the
I'm
word
trying to think of like how it would even be presented, because you could, I mean, if we were to look at all of the vacancies in the county, in all county departments, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah,
So,
What about asking well, kind of like part of the survey, what about asking in a survey, what type of jobs that they want, get that feedback? There are programs inside that does employment, or even from our partners, the type of jobs that they're noticing individuals want in the industry.
so asking the
Part of
individual.
The individual part of the survey.
What type of employment or industry, let's say that, sector
Yes,
they would like to work in. Cause if it's health, financial,
right,
even to some degree, law enforcement,
right,
it's gonna be difficult.
right.
It's gonna be.
but even within those, there's roles that they could have that aren't necessarily tied to the, like in finance, right?
Mhm.
You're worried about someone accessing funds and doing whatever else with it, right? But there's still administrative tasks that need to happen
True.
for those departments
True.
that are not privy to all of that information and
But then
content.
I take it to another level. That's where some bias come in, because if it's an individual that don't have charges related to any type of money or laundering,
Yeah,
how come that person can't?
so
have
I
that
align
type of
with
job?
you.
Mhm.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So I know that that is correct. If you have a background, you can't work in certain banks. But if I didn't go to jail for robbery, so
Mhm.
looking at, I know that may be a longer conversation. It's something we can identify right now, but a short resolution to it is, can we just not ask?
I mean, that's supposed to be part of the Fair Chance Act.
Okay,
Mhm.
So when the Fair Chance Act passed, that basically stated that for all employers, because even even as I do hiring, I can give a conditional offer
right,
prior to background check.
right,
So you engage the individual, the applicant through the interview process. You have banned the box too.
right,
So we engage them off process. And if we feel that based just on their skill set and all of that and their experience, it aligns with the job they're applying for, you can do a conditional offer and then a background check or whatever can.
and that's
be.
where it stops at.
And that's where, depending on what comes up, right? Either negotiation can be done or the employer can decide, well, this person's specific conviction has nothing to do
Right.
with
Right,
what we're doing. So
Right.
we like the person, let's bring them in.
okay,
That was the point of it.
okay,
Now, how it's employed in practice, that part I'm not sure. But I will say that prior to Fair Chance Act being passed, the county did, through the Workforce Development Board, did try to engage local employers around what they called having them sign pledges and things like that to be a fair chance employer. This is before the act actually passed. And providing TA support and really engaging them about when you go through your recruitment and hiring process, how to consider that.
right.
Not
Maybe
just a
that's something we
blanket.
can recommend then, is
Yeah.
utilizing the Workforce Development Board to do that technical assistance to the county.
Mm-hmm.
And take it one
To the county HR, kind of like.
Yeah.
So I mean, and we could, so I think that was the other thing we talked about is, and it was shared.
Ariana, you got that one? That was good.
Yeah, and there was another, I think in another meeting was raised that it's probably best to bring HR into this conversation, risk management. There is now across the board, the board of supervisors are looking at how are each department, emphasizing equity measures and principles. This clearly falls in line with that. So I think the conversation is ongoing and maybe folks that you all hadn't talked to yet probably should be brought into the fold
Yeah.
and kind of get a sense of how are they employing or supporting departments. So our county HR essentially runs all HR processes for every county, for every department, not every county, every department. So obviously your hiring managers are involved, so there's a lot of back and forth, but essentially that's where they're centrally their central focus, I would say, in the hiring process overall for the county. And then risk management that's also involved a lot of times in that process as well. So who's a gentleman, I'm
So-
forgetting his name, he was the equal opportunity officer, something like that for the county. He was actively involved too during the time of Banfield Fire. I'm guessing he's still here with the county, but maybe another person too, to,
So I'll add this, well, before I add this part, there was another section you said in reference to making sure that county partners have funding for something.
The need for additional funds and employment services to meet the increased costs.
And there was another part.
Flexible spending for providers to combat one-off offenders.
So that piece, if we can expand on that. So I'll give personal feedback to what you just said. It does go in that process because I am just impacted. And that is the process that I had to go through in reference to an offer, going through HR and that whole thing. So my feedback on that is the timing that it takes for an individual. So what can you do in that short time? Because it took me from applying to about 6-7 months. So in between that time frame, like you said in there, how is it, can our providers be funded to be able to, I just lost your words again.
To
So one of the feedbacks that I have is that I'm an individual, I know how to advocate for myself. Other people do not. So although we're asking for funding to be able to look into employment, how can we also make sure this population learns how to go through that process because they give up before they even get there. So if you don't have that skill to continue to speak up, or when you get the notice and then you have to do an appeal, like I have to do an appeal. So if you don't, once you get that notice of when I got your background, you may not get it, they're gonna turn away and walk away, and they feel like they're not, they won't have that opportunity. So how do we educate them to not walk away, speak up for yourself, understand that is a process, and understand how the laws work, that, hey, you may be able to get that job if we keep going, but they don't do that.
yeah, but then also in all fairness, like the average person walks away because the hiring process.
Yeah.
It is, but
So the average person is like, yeah, no, I'm out. But I mean, if they have another opportunity, but you're right in that it can be even more of a deterrence for someone that is system impacted, and this could be an opportunity for them. But if
Right.
but if the assumption there is probably not going, that the
or
reason why that it takes so long is because of your background, and therefore you probably not, you start having all these.
right, or what feedback I got from someone else is trauma. They have to relive it. So someone
Every
that-
time someone told.
Yeah, so you
told
have to
no,
constantly
yeah.
come and pretty much advocate and tell your story again. And that could have been 10, 20 years ago, but you have to come
Mhm.
back and say, I once was not anymore.
Yeah,
So that trauma piece of it. So I think it's two-part. It's like, it's the individual itself. And then, as you said, talking to like HR, risk management. I don't think they understand that piece. It's required because I know you got to protect the organization, right? But it's also a trauma piece that's attached to that.
So how do you feel about that piece of
How did
having
I
to
feel when
utilize,
that- when
no,
that-
about,
I can tell you exactly what it felt like.
about utilizing the Workforce Development Board to upskill and train the county HR?
I think it's a great tool to use what we already have.
Right, okay.
I would even
Or more.
want to know, because so like Office of Ed employs you,
Mhm.
right, as a justice impacted person, or formerly person with lived experience, let me say that. I know forensics mental health, for example, and health services has community support workers. They also have
H3.
H3 has individuals with lived experience. Probation will soon have that too, with our community associate positions will be. Did it get board approved? Yeah, it's on its way to create the position so we can start hiring for it. So there are a couple of departments already that have been hiring folks with lived experiences. I wonder then what has been on the department side, what's been their experience in terms of negotiating that with HR, and then on HR side, now seeing more departments have done that, or what's the backstory, basically,
Right.
the history there of how they created the road for that to be the case.
Okay.
And then maybe taking that and modeling that for, okay, these vacant positions in different departments, Could there be a way to replicate whatever the process was for these individual departments? Who were specifically looking for an individual with lived experience, how do we make that kind of happen elsewhere?
Okay,
Yeah,
on my papers.
because I could see where after that, now, when you went through background, but because you're in you're in the jails though. I guess I was getting ready to say who conducted so
The
law
Office of
enforcement
Education. So I had to go through two processes. So I had to go through initial interview and live scan through Office of Education.
Okay,
And so the whole initial process with HR and risk management started with them first.
okay,
Then after that, I was submitted over to the sheriff for clearance to go through them.
go through there.
And they, of course, they do the same thing.
Yeah,
I guess, I don't know if Office of Ed shares my background with them and they do it again. I don't know what the sheriff's process is,
yeah.
but I had to go through that lengthy process to get approved
Yeah.
on both parts.
You think about it, those are too hard.
It is, so I didn't mind the 7 months.
Yeah, because you're talking about sheriff's office
Yeah.
and education. They're really strict,
So, I mean, I will tell you this at the beginning, they tell you how long it could possibly take. They say it can happen. So it's not like it's a surprise,
Mhm.
but thinking of someone just, again, I'm not an individual where I was okay to be able to take that time and let it roll out. But what about those that are not?
Yeah.
What do we do with them individuals and just educating them on the process so that they don't give up?
Yeah,
But I just wanted to bring it up saying it did work.
yeah, Yeah.
If you continue to just.
yeah. And when you take a step back, when you think about it, you had a law enforcement agency,
Mhm,
an educational agency.
mhm.
We now know, at least in health services, was a healthcare agency, but you have multiple units within that agency that's hiring folks with with a background.
Right. And when I talk to H3, yes, it's for the peer support, but that's a county and they're trying to not just peer support, even forensic mental health, they're trying to offer other positions to individuals with background, not just that, like go through the same process like I did.
Yeah,
So if you can apply for it, you qualify,
yeah.
it's just going through the steps to get it.
So it
So I
makes you
do
think
think
like,
agencies are opening up.
yeah, because it makes you think like agencies like a public works,
Right.
for example,
Definitely.
or some other agencies. I just always deal with the justice ones.
Um,
But even, yeah, but employment and human services side.
social work.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta.
Oh, I'm sorry. You watching the clock for me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, but more to come on that one.
More to come. Okay, so yes, I like what you wrote.
Okay. Mariana, do you have any questions? Any follow-up? You good?
No, I captured everything that was said on this
Alright.
recommendation.
Awesome, thank you. So the second one I wrote is the pre and post release. I did differentiate between the district attorney's office. So Gariana, we're gonna take off that second heading, the expanded integration of programming, and we're just gonna combine these two pieces. So a gap in the ability to serve individuals before they are released to return home was expressed by all departments. This barrier leads to many people leaving the prison system without a plan for housing, employment, medical care, and other necessities. Contra Costa County has made tremendous efforts to support those individuals, and we recommend that the county explores more ways to provide these services before someone is released from custody. The individual leaving custody, as well as their community who will support their return home, should be provided with the resources necessary to be successful. This can include training and education for families, financial support for housing, and case management to help navigate access to available supportive services. Contra Costa has the opportunity to set each person up for success by having a detailed and integrated support plan that utilizes the resources available in the county. Contra Costa County, through the collaboration with the district attorney's office and partnering departments, has piloted a successful holistic intervention program, HIP, to understand, document, and address unmet needs for individuals interacting with the court system. This program's success led to an additional $6 million investment of $6 million to provide immediate legal representation, civil, legal advocacy, and community-based services for at least 900 people over 3 years. With the continued alignment of these services, more residents are able to have their needs met and significantly reduces the likelihood of reoffending before their original case is brought to court. And then I have like a holder for length of time before a case is heard in recidivism statistics. I don't know if that's something that would be.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I do like the fact that you're at HIP, but that only covers low offenses.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So are we gonna want to be just stuck on that low offense to make sure it covers everyone that's just?
So I think I'm just highlighting it as like one example.
Okay,
Yeah. Let me finish and then.
Okay.
we can-
you told me to stop you.
No, you're good. So the second part is, I think, CAB recommends the continued alignment of investment in data-driven and research-based interventions like HIP. By creating a pathway for individuals to access the network of supportive services Contra Costa has to offer, at the onset, all departments are able to better serve that individual. The county should continue to explore ways to support and fund innovative programs that work across departments to ensure all needs of the individual are being met. So you're saying that because I'm calling out HIP, you think it prioritizes that population instead of the larger population? Okay. We can take it out.
I just think it's like,
For me, when I heard the district attorney's office speaking about it, I was like.
Public
this is-
defenders, that's
Okay.
public defenders
Okay,
program.
thank you.
Yeah.
Public
So I do-
defenders, can we change that, Gary?
Sorry, I do want to, I just know that there are, I am very interested in their program. But
Yeah.
I just know that there are other programs also inside
Mhm.
that are also doing the work
Mhm.
and not just them.
Mhm.
So some of our CBOs are inside,
Definitely.
that are doing pre and post release services as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And mental health and housing, like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're all in there. I think the reason I called it out is because it's like, for me, it was the first time I heard about kind of that integrated approach.
okay,
Because what Patrice was talking about before as well is like, we have these siloed programs or siloed interventions, and this is really looking at how do we assess that individual and then bring all of those supportive services together to the table to make sure that they're successful in release.
so if we do highlight them, can we also notate those connections to our, because I know that they're connected to some of our CBOs as well, like RSC. They also work with AOD. So making that connection with how they're already collaborating with us,
Mhm.
just so that we're not,
So I put in partnering departments, maybe we spell it
I
out.
gotta sneeze, I can feel it, yes. I'm not gonna
Right.
sneeze on you. I do.
It makes you stop sneezing.
It's a good, see, now I'm gonna be walking around.
Never heard that one before?
No. I'm like, what's that delight? Just making sure, yes, so let's elaborate on that. Because I do love their program, and I was excited as
Yeah.
well when I learned about it, because I kept hearing about it. So when they came and presented, I actually love what they're doing and do they think it needs to be expanded, but I also want to make sure that we highlight those that are also inside as well.
Yeah,
If you added this in there, that's fine. I wanted to make sure that we covered some of these other bullets in reference to developing and adopting a system-wide operating guidelines to better integrate a coordinated approach to the provision of pre-release and post-release services across multiple party agency, because there is a gap in reference to how partners are communicating for post and pre-release.
Mhm.
Increase coordination among providers with reduced duplication of efforts and streamlining service delivery. Well, you see, I'm reading them all out too, like you can't read it. So I know that you covered some of these, but want to make sure that they're incorporated in there as well, kind of way. You covered the first one when you talked about families.
So it says
we
to
talk about
access the
housing?
network of supportive services.
Okay.
So all departments are able to better serve the individual. So I think it's, I mean, I think it's trying to I was trying to summarize. it.
Okay, it's perfect. I thought I heard, I just wanted to make sure, and then we
Yeah.
did say housing, right?
Um,
I think we also want to put in there and notate the need for like bridge housing services. So we heard that from partners as well as our AB 109 summit and from other counties.
yes, financial support for housing, case management, et cetera.
So not just financial support, there needs to be some type of housing support from when they walk out the door. So like a bridge housing support from as soon as they're released. Put that in the first one.
Is that under housing though?
That's what I'm reading, to double check, because I could be repeating myself. Yeah, it is.
Okay,
There is a dire need for stable housing options that are also subsidized and service and streamline. Yeah, it is.
okay, cool.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
No, you're good.
All right.
And we'll have another opportunity to look at it.
Yes, sir. Once
Yeah.
we get it all typed up.
Yeah,
Okay.
once I meet deadlines. Sorry.
Okay. I was
Brianna
stressing.
sent me that email and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
No, when she had me, she could tell you I was stressing for 2 days trying to get this typed up at 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
I was like, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
There is no can in.
When Gary on that emails you, you know you're in big trouble.
Trouble. All right. Is there any other questions or feedbacks in reference to that agenda item number 4?
Yes, so at the beginning of it, it all needs to be updated. Kariana, what were you thinking for next steps with this? So you were gonna make some modifications and then are you able to send it back to myself?
Yeah, I was probably gonna check in with Patrice. I took some notes on what you guys were saying, so I don't know if you want me to add the notes and then send it back, or I don't know. I
That'd
was
be
gonna,
Thank you.
yeah,
If you have the
that,
time and capacity, that would be great.
yeah, my biggest thing is I just need to know when you need it back. Would it be before the next subcommittee meeting or the next CAB general meeting?
So we wanna bring it to full cab, right?
Not yet, because we still have to cover 2 and 4. So I would say our next meeting, because we're supposed to go over 2 and 4 with full cap.
But aren't we presenting this to CCP in November?
It's October next.
Right, but we have to bring it to cab before we bring it to CCP.
Okay, thank you for the timeline.
We can't bring it
I'm
to-
thinking you're right.
So we can't bring it to cab in November.
Yeah, so for full cap, that way we can review.
I think we just keep 2, 3, and 4 in there as is.
We're
and
just gonna
have the
add. So
Conversation,
yeah, we weren't gonna take it out.
yeah.
We're just gonna go over it. Yes, okay, you're right.
Cool.
Thank you. Yes, full cap.
Okay.
Because we were just gonna review it with them, because we wanted to highlight for those 2, the things that we've already done
Yeah,
and accomplished, and then see if there were any words we wanted to add to it, and that was it. So then we can review all of them.
cool.
Okay, I'll try to send it back to you guys before October 12th. Is their meeting, or are you talking about the Monday meeting?
Nope, October 12th.
Gotcha.
But
I
we
mean,
need
would you be
to
able to
send it
have it?
back to you again, right? What would that timeline be? Because we would need to make edits and then send it back to you to be able to post publicly, right?
Yeah.
For the October, which
The October full.
the October full.
So
So that
when-
would mean we generally post that Friday before. So if it's the 12th, we would post by the 6th, so we would probably need it by that Wednesday, which is, I think, the 4th, Wednesday or Thursday, 4th or 5th.
Okay. Are you able to, when do you think you could get it to us, Kariana?
Next today, the 22nd, and you need to review it before the 6th. Possibly next week. Gonna aim for next
Okay.
week.
And we gotta get it back to you on the 4th.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
on the
like maybe
4th?
the following week.
So she's gonna send it
Next
on the
week.
6th? Oh, okay,
She's sending it to you next week. You're gonna make edits and send it back to her
bye.
the 4th.
The 4th.
So she can post it for cab on the 6th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And I'll ask that question to you when I'll be getting scared about that budget. I'll ask the question when I get there.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, we're fine. We're ahead. We're fine. It's just that you're giving me that October, November is gonna be here before you blink our eye.
Already
So
here.
it's already here. Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 5, which is discuss update on PIT account for behavioral health. Jill Ray is not here. I know she was gonna look into it. Oh, she gave you something.
Yeah, so because I wasn't at your last meeting, she
'Cause this is
she
public.
did put, yeah, this one is on, so this is on the actual website. Let me
Right.
say it out loud, because what she has. It's cchealth.org/H3. When you go to H3's website on I think it's to the right-hand side where it says latest news, there's the PIT infographic, which is this,
Right.
what we're looking at now. And so, though I wasn't part of the conversation at the last meeting, I think my understanding is you guys wanted to know of the PIT count, how many were actually justice involved. So Garyana, if you could just scroll down a little, or actually zoom in.
Oh, yeah, because y'all see me squinting.
Yeah. And then scroll down. I think this is actually a really great.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, actually scroll up. I'm sorry. Scroll up one more time. So at the very top, and I don't know how much conversation was or background was given on what PIT is.
I participated in PIT.
You did?
Yes, yeah.
I
Nice.
volunteered.
Okay, well then just for the sake of recording,
Uh-huh.
PIT is, as it says here, homeless point in time count. And this is done technically every 2 years. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's actually mandated by HUD, but it is a HUD reporting, if you will. Contra Costa, though, typically does a annual report. So I'm not sure if they do PIT every year.
So
I
far as
think-
every year.
I think it is every year.
Mhm.
So they will put this out every year. So
And they
you will
updated your
usually hear-
website. It's beautiful.
yeah. And the good thing about having a PIT count every year as opposed to every 2 years, I don't know if you've ever seen, or I've seen this on the news, that sometimes when the counties are reporting their PIT count and they've only done it every 2 years, it's like the startling wild
Right.
number. And then it just like, oh my God, and so it unfortunately brings about kind of not the best news coverage. Whereas here, we get to see an accurate count year over year over year, whether there was an uptick or a decrease, right? And yeah. So it says here that in 2023, and mind you, the PIT count happens where they're just identifying folks who are unsheltered one day of the year, and they're making that total count that one day or night or what have you. So here it says 2,372 individuals experienced homelessness on a given night in Contra Costa. That equals 1,911 households. And 4%, and that was a 4% increase from 2020 to 2023. So again, that kind of multi-year, when you think about it and you see that increase, you go, oh my God. But the truth of the matter is a lot has transpired between 2020 to 2023, right? You go down a little further, sheltered and unsheltered individuals, and yeah, right there. You had just over 1,500 in 2020 that were unsheltered. In 2023, about 1,600 that were unsheltered. Those who were sheltered still stayed around the same ballpark. So yeah, 700 in 2020, 719. 2023 shelter status, 70% were unsheltered, as we saw, and then those were sheltered were 30%. So we still stick around about a 30% rate of folks being sheltered, covered. All the others are outside. There's a race and age breakdown, gender breakdown. And then, yes, 67% of these individuals are considered chronically homeless, and I believe their definition of chronic homelessness is over a year, a year or more, of being unsheltered,
Mhm.
right? 4% of those individuals were vets. Household breakdown, adult only, made up of 95%. And that's a 4% decrease since 2020. Households with children made up 5%, and that's been a 12% increase. So they're seeing many more families experiencing homelessness compared to 2020, excuse me. And then there's the geographic background breakdown on the right-hand side.
I have to bring that east.
Yeah, Central experienced a 4% decrease. East County experienced a 6% decrease. Go up, Gary, on West County
Do you wanna talk
experienced
about
a 29% increase. That's wild. So, I'm just going through what's here. I don't have the background on all of this. Is more
So-
H3. They would be able to.
So on our last meeting, what not concerned, but what we were trying to figure out, because we've been meeting with county partners, is the duplication of services. So we know the PIC count is out there, but how many of those are just an impact? And one of the things that Jill said is that that was one of the things that they asked them to count.
Yeah. So we getting down there.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I caught the.
Not so many.
Huddle.
So,
Yes, as chair, you have every right. Move us along. Okay, come on down, Gary.
I mean, I don't want to steal your fire. You was.
Yeah, I hear you.
you.
Okay, right here.
Okay.
You see where it says legal system involved. 12% of adults had spent one or more nights in jail or prison in the past year.
Okay.
So their
that's self-reported.
qualifier.
Yeah, self-reported.
Self-reported, and their qualifier of system involvement is whether or not they spent at least one day or one night in jail or prison over the past year. So, that's still,
As well, too.
yeah.
So I'm glad that they're capturing it, because I know that was one thing that H3 said that they were trying to add into it.
Hmm.
I'd love to be able to see the other work that they do to capture, in reference to just and impacted the assessments and stuff. So it's nice that they actually captured it.
So I think this is a great graphic,
Beautiful.
to be honest with you. And then you see here on the, since we're talking about disabling conditions, you see here
It's
on
beautiful.
the right-hand side, 83%, hold on, let me just move you out the way. Now this is self-reported health condition. 83% of households had at least one member with a disabling condition. 50%, over 50% of chronic health. Substance use was also 51%, 49% mental health condition, 42% physical disability, 19% fleeing
Wow.
domestic violence, 2% with the HIV related illness. So if we were able to see what the overlap is between this 12% and this 83%,
Right.
that would be really, it would be interesting to see what of this 12% is here. And that goes to, again, your recommendation earlier about supports for folks who are justice impacted and also living with a disability.
Also that note that we put in there in reference to system integration.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the feedbacks I got back from H3 as well as behavioral health, and just my own personal experience is that data, if systems would talk to each other, that data would be readily available.
Yeah. Now they did let us know that they do have a data request process. So any member of the public can request, and it's on their website, how you submit a request. So anyone
That's
can
nice.
can submit a
I'll
request.
send a request for that then.
Yeah,
I'll look into the
Thank you.
12%.
Yeah.
You're such a great person. All right, thank you, Patrice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, not a
thank you.
problem.
I'm really excited because I know we were waiting for that information. And Jill said she was going to get on it. So I'm happy to see it on the report and that they are taking those steps to identify
Yeah.
part of the population.
I will say, Jill says she's gonna get on it. She
did.
is on
She
it.
did. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so we have that as next step then. Okay, so moving on to item number 6, which discussed the budget update. So we are on track. And let me make sure I have the dates correct. So November is when we're going to have to submit it.
Well, you'll have to submit before November. It's, so November CCP meeting, which usually is the first Friday of that month, is where it's going to be a budget workshop.
Right,
So that's where, every funded agency, submits a budget request for funding, AB 109 funding for the next fiscal year. So we're planning for 24, 25.
right.
CAB typically submits a budget request on all of the AB 109 community programs. In the past, I would say in the past, well, in 21, in preparation for fiscal year 22, 23, CAB made the recommendation of having a 3% COLA increase for the next 3 years for the community programs to be in alignment with the county agencies that were receiving 3% COLA increases as well. So that did go into effect. And then that meant that last year, 22, 23, preparing for 23, 24, you all just had the status quo request. So you guys can deliberate on whether or not you want to do the same thing for the next, for 24, 25, that would be that third year. It could be a status quo request, or you can make whatever increases, decreases as you see.
So if you can add that to our October meeting so Justin can see it. So last year I did a status quo because I initially felt like I couldn't have any justification moving money around without any data. So I just went with the 3% COLA and I didn't move anything around for the programs. We can definitely talk about it next meeting if you have some ideas, but I still stand where I am. Is in order for me to determine where things should move, I need data. And I was going to ask you, do people, this came to my mind as I was thinking about today's meeting. Do any of our providers send in any type of
Yes.
Okay.
So every year, providers are required to submit quarterly reporting, but they submit 2 quarters, half a year, and then the other 2 quarters at the end of the year. So we did receive all reports from all of our AB 109 providers.
Okay.
Internally, we're going through them now just to identify where there have been some discrepancies in the reporting. And so we're addressing that individually with each provider.
Okay.
We're down a data person,
Okay.
unfortunately, so that is,
It's an opportunity to hire someone who's just as involved.
we are hiring though to fill this position. But absolutely.
But
if
Bring
they-
it
if they
full
have-
circle.
yeah,
Changing my
if they
question,
have-
right.
If they have data analytics background, 1,000%.
Great.
Okay, anywho, but so it's taking a little bit longer than.
What about like the need? Because I know that some providers have been presenting at programs and services. I didn't get a chance to join, but sharing where
Yes.
they're needed. So how can we find that
Yes.
out so that we can kind of look?
Yes, so just yesterday at the Programs and Services Subcommittee meeting, Men and Women of Purpose, who receives the who administers a peer mentoring in West County service, and then the Reentry Network through Health Right 360, that's one of our reentry service hubs. Those 2 presented yesterday, and both of them raised, well, let me back up. Programs and Services asked that the currently funded community programs, the contractors,
Mhm.
come and present at their September meeting and their October meeting. They wanted to hear from all of them, and that's 7 of them, I believe.
Right.
And as part of their presentation, not only are they going over just how their program works and all of that, but then also if there are any budgetary considerations that need to be shared with CAB, they're welcome to do so. So both Men and Women of Purpose and then the Reentry Network did present yesterday, and both of them did uplift some budgetary items that they'd like CAB to consider. What I think I took notes on it. Some of them included for the network, they thought it was imperative to have some funding made available to cover the cost of domestic violence classes for folks who are court mandated to go through that 52-week long process. They currently within their program have some subsidized housing made available, but it's only for a very small number. I believe they said about 10. They like to increase that number if at all possible. And so they don't have a house necessarily themselves, but what they're doing is partnering with mostly sober living environments and are covering the cost of the bed. So if they're able to then expand the number of beds that they could pay for, that means there's more slots made available for whoever needs them. And then they also talked about stipends, but the way they mentioned it actually had me think about guaranteed income, because these were stipends for individuals as they're waiting to either get employment or whatever's their transition, that they can then be compensated during that sort of waiting or interim period. Men and women of there was another one on participant support. I know I didn't capture everything in my notes, but what I can do is that when they make as they're making their present or after they make their presentation, I can request that they submit something in writing.
Okay.
So that way you guys get the full synopsis of what their budgetary what they're lifting up in terms of opportunities for.
Are we able to get that for all of them?
Yeah, we could do that, because
Uh-huh.
all of them were told to include well, all of them were told that if there's some budgetary considerations that you want CAB to know, please lift them.
Okay.
So if they did include it in their presentation, in this case, both of them did, I noted that.
Okay.
I'm not sure how the others will do on October 19th, but I invite you to attend that meeting. Yeah, October 19th, if you can, it's from 11 to 12:30, even if you just Zoom in. Because the other providers that will be presenting is the Reentry Success Center, Bay Area Legal Aid,
Okay.
and I believe Center Force confirmed me that they will present on that day. And we'll look to see if we can include Lao Family Community Development as well. They're the housing provider. That's a lot of presentations in one day or one meeting, but we're going to check in with the chair to see if possible for that agenda, if they would allow for just take action on the record of action and then just those presentations.
Yeah.
However, if they want other items that are really important for them to discuss, then we may have to stretch it out to another month, which will be after the initial budget meeting.
Okay.
So.
I'll join it because it'll be great to have that information, because again, it was really hard to just say, okay, I mean, moving money for a program and not knowing where to put it or why and justification for it was really hard. So I was with the status quo. But if we understand what their needs are, then we can take a look and figure out what some suggestions.
And in the past, CAB has done that, has asked that ORJ send out an email to all the providers and say, if you have requests you like CAB to consider, send something in writing or come to a future meeting and present. And so they typically have done that. Programs and services though, because so many of them are newer members, really just wanted to know, well, how do these programs work to begin with? And as in, like I said, added piece, if there are some budgetary considerations that they want folks to know about, to lift those up as well. So.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that. Okay, because then we can take that. So we can just add the budget to October and get that information. If they can get it back to us in time, then we can look at that.
Yeah, we can send it, and even if they don't, because you guys' meeting is on the 27th.
It's after.
It's after. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That was a discussion. I can't make that meeting on the 27th. That's the day after my birthday and I'm out of town.
Yeah, I feel you.
Sorry, team.
No worries. Actually, I will also be off October the 9th
Okay.
because of my birthday.
Hey, what's up, October?
So happy early birthday, October.
Oh, baby.
My memory is terrible.
Yeah.
Take
Thank
it
you.
now.
I will
Yeah.
take it now.
I will tell you now.
Oh, good.
I will take it now.
I still, so what, does the 20th still work? Cause I don't, for some reason, I had it on the 20th.
They moved it from the 20th.
We
To-
did.
Oh.
Yeah, Gariana did.
why did we do
Nicole,
that?
you said you weren't available.
On the 20th of October?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought.
yeah, I'm not. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I do have an HR meeting. Thank you, dear. That's why I love you. Thank you.
Can you do it at a different time on the 20th?
Let me look at that calendar for work. Our staff development day is all the way to 3 o'clock, so it'll have to be right after that.
On a Friday?
Yeah, they still, it's staff development day. Oh, I could do, I mean, if you want to do it on the, when is theirs? This is 19th, so we can't do, I could do any other day, just if you want to do the 23rd, 24th. We have our
Um,
agenda meeting on the 23rd, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean you're already gonna be here?
Yeah. Well, it's
No,
because it
that's
was Zoom.
Zoom.
Oh.
Mhm. But you
And
you
that's
could
at-
do it, that's at 3, you could do it before.
If you want to do a 23rd, I'm more than one.
Sure, let's do 1:30 to 3.
Okay, so 10, 23, 1, 2, 3. Because I do want to hear programs and services first before we have ours. So
Okay.
okay, I mean move it around. You know why I forgot? Because I still have Monique's old things
Email
on my
calendar.
calendar.
We're just gonna get through those for the year. And then it'll be.
No, I'm fine because I have y'all that remind me. I'm good.
So we're changing it to
10:23.
23 from 1 to 3.
1:30 to 3.
And then can I just stand
Is
here?
that
to do-
1:30 to 3? You guys are only an hour and a half, huh? Okay, 1:30 to 3. So we'll check in with the room here, make sure it's available.
And then would I be able just to stay in here to do the, because right after that is our agenda planning meeting.
Yeah, you could.
When do you work?
Huh?
When do you work?
We're still on camera. Can you?
Never mind. I retract that statement. Can we edit that?
Nope.
So as you can see, I adjust these during my internship hours because it's also part of my internship at the outreach.
That's cool.
Right, so they allowed me to also be here as well, so I kind of, and then also, so the cool thing is, I can say that,
That's really cool.
part of my job with the Contra Costa County Office of Education, part of my job description requires me to collaborate with community partners.
Hey, you're
Hey.
fulfilling your,
Yeah,
Nice.
okay, well, just as
Y'all heard that, right?
for that, but just as a time check, we're at 12:31.
yes, and if we all can say for a quick second, I'm sorry, I forgot in section 4, I need to review something with you really quickly, and I almost forgot.
Seems serious.
Yes. Was serious because I was about to pop myself on the hand that I was going to forget. So I wanted to talk to you about the AB 109 access funds and what I'm thinking about doing.
Okay.
To kind of get your feedback. And I kind of go quickly over it. So one of the key recommendations, or not recommendations, what I was thinking is we should go ahead and do that within programs and policy and budget, meaning that we will conduct the work groups here. And that will be spread out between October, November, December, and go into next year. And we will break it down amongst the 4 main recommendations. So we will be responsible for hosting that meetings, which means that we will most likely do additional meetings each month because we wouldn't be able to get it all done within one meeting.
So clearly she doesn't work. I'm just kidding.
I'll stop acting on this call. Okay. No, I don't get any sleep. That's really what it is. On time. So
Well, we can do it in October.
Oh, because your birthday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
have
we're gonna be
to find
doing
an
the
early-
budget review and we need to give them ample time to actually like show up. And we need to be prepared for what we're doing with them at the work group.
So if everything goes okay with, not okay, but we'll discuss at our next CCP meeting to see if that's something we can do. We're gonna break it down. So initially October will be housing. November would be, top of my head, behavioral health. The next month after that will be employment and then post pre-release. And then we, at the last part would be us gathering data and figuring out how the money can be allocated and who would be the administrator of that, right? So I know it's getting kind of close.
And you're leaving in
Where am I going?
December,
Where am I
not
going?
on cab anymore.
Oh, well, if all goes well for the guidelines, so the next, oh, you're not gonna be here for the staff, for the CAB meeting
On
on
Monday.
Monday. So as part of the, well, it was part of the agenda packet earlier this month, September, right? Yeah. The operating guidelines, we got them back from county council. And one of the revisions is to remove the term limitation that's there.
So you stick
there's
around.
a-
Cause I was crazy
If
enough
you-
to ask if I could stay.
So, well, there are quite a few that are terming off that actually want to stay, and
Yeah.
we have so many vacancies right now,
Yeah.
though we're having 2 new ones coming on.
That's
It's
all.
just creating, because really, from what I heard from county council, in all honesty, I think CAB is the only body that has that kind of a
Oh, wow.
limitation where after your 3-year term, you have a 2-year break, and then you can be up for consideration again. So, yeah.
Well, welcome back to the team.
Thank you.
So if CAB is for it,
Believe, man.
assuming CAB is going to be approving those guidelines.
Yeah.
then They'll go to CCP for approval,
Got it.
and then, but I'm not sure if we can make it in time for the CCP meeting on Friday. I'll have to see, but nonetheless, at least by November for
Okay.
sure.
So I think I'm comfortable with that. I don't think it's realistic to propose starting in October.
Okay.
Like, we wouldn't have any time to plan or think through, because we would have to have another meeting, public meeting, where we can have a conversation.
Right. Okay.
So then maybe your October meeting includes planning process.
work
Right.
For the work.
And
plan-
then
Yeah.
it
for the
starts
work.
in November.
Groups, sorry, yeah.
So, because on CCP meeting, there will be an update on the AB 109 excess fund.
Okay.
And part of that update is the CAO's office is likely going to share its plans to make sure that that money is simply allocated, not necessarily toward the specific, there's a spending.
To
plan
be
yet,
spent.
But to be spent.
Right.
And then,
That's awesome.
either myself or Cole, however you guys will want to do it, we could at least share that policy and budget wants to be the holder convener as the work group to plan out each of those priorities.
Can those be virtual?
Right.
The work group, no, it's still because it's the committee that's.
Right.
Now, another,
It's just an hour commute.
well, oh, you're an hour committee.
Well, it's a half an hour each way.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you're at a public, what's your, you don't live in the county though.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you live in the county. What's your supervisor district?
Goya.
We could maybe ask them if they would be a meeting site. So what would
Would
happen?
you be willing to come out that way?
No.
You can see me.
This is what will happen.
Yeah.
This is what could happen.
This is a bit.
I try not to do this because it could get too,
Oh, I know what you're gonna
confusing.
say.
but we could have multiple meeting locations
And we're
at the same time
And
and
then
then
it's-
virtual. But it has to be publicly noticed and permissible for public to come and
They
sit.
can come to my house.
No.
No,
You would have to
but-
do
but-
it at Supervisor Joya's office.
Okay,
So if that would be convenient for you.
definitely.
Then we could work, me and you, Garyana, working ourselves to death here. We'll work with their office to see scheduling wise.
Great.
If they could do, because that's essentially what
Mhm.
Supervisor Joya and Glover do now for their like equity committee, for
Okay.
the public
They do.
protection committee
Sweet.
meetings. They're in their district offices. They're never in the same room.
Yeah.
They're in their district offices, but members of the public are
Good
welcome
idea.
in that.
That'd be cool if we can do that.
And so we'll do one.
Great way to interact with our public officials too.
Yeah, so one here, one at Supervisor Joya's office.
Okay.
And then we'll have to work with them in the background. So they already have the equipment, so that's good to do the zooming there. We'll just have to figure out who would be, who in their office can be on site to assist.
Okay.
Because usually,
Else runs it.
yeah, we'll have to, well, typically even for these meetings, we have one of our staff handling the virtual side while I'm here present.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure you have support there.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think that is a good idea to have, because if we use October for planning, then we can kind of. That stuff out.
It gives you some more
Okay.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I told you it was important. That's why I had that important look on my face. I had to get your buy-in.
I'm in. I don't know that I had a choice, but I'm in.
You have a choice. I value
We can
yours.
describe, we can define how long those meetings are though, right?
It would still be is it still required to be?
Yeah, you can extend it. However, I think you can extend it for however long you want.
Can we shorten it? Can we make it an hour?
Can you make it an hour? How much planning are you going to have done in
I
it?
think it really
No,
depends.
not the October meeting, the work group meeting.
But it depends on the subject. So as we
Oh, I
start
got
planning, we can go into, because I did a whole lot of writing. We can break down exactly what we're looking for each, because housing is gonna be a big one.
Yeah,
So that one is gonna be a long one. The other one's maybe a little bit shorter, but I think it depends on what we're working on.
Mhm.
Once we plan it out, then we can kind of define how long.
can
Yeah.
we do those instead of having our regular meeting?
We
So
mean
have to
the
have a
work
regular
group meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, you could decide that your only business, that
That.
meeting is that. So
That
that
would be
means you would do your ROA and then your
Yeah,
workshop.
Well, you have to keep in mind that we still have to do our budget.
but that's in October. I'm talking about the work groups. That would
Okay.
be November, December, January, and February.
Okay. Okay.
And we wouldn't, yeah. That's interesting. Okay,
Okay.
let's get
He's
creative.
trying to get as short as he can.
No,
I think I think it's fair.
Messing with him.
And then at least.
I'm not working right now.
I wanna have your life.
Not my job.
I think about it every Friday, that I'm like, I need to be like Justin and take a vacation every other Friday, like I need to get that life together.
Yeah.
Okay,
But then, so October, then you guys' October meeting can be, further planning next steps. For
Cool.
future meeting, for future, excess fund planning meetings, we'll probably call it that.
okay.
And, budget requests.
Mhm.
And, cause I think I'm mapping out your next step.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think she took care of it for our next steps.
And then what was it for the recommendations? You guys wanted it?
We're doing that all before the general body.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be.
we're doing it on the
That's gonna
back
be-
end. just
that's
for
right,
us.
before the,
Before-
October 12th, so you won't have it for this, okay. Okay.
So we'll be done.
Yeah,
Yeah, you will.
That's great.
So those will be your two items then,
And then we just got
That-
work groups.
yeah, so your two items would be planning for the work groups and then, budget
Sweet.
requests.
okay.
Okay,
You have the next step to explore external locations for those meetings.
And then that one item that you have, Justin's next step. the
I got
pit,
you. Yes.
Did she put it on there for pit? Okay.
Data
Oh, to
request from
request.
H3.
Mhm, mhm. All right, so if that's it, I don't have it's 12:41. We will adjourn to our next, can you talk more policy and budget subcommittee meeting, which is to be set on October 23rd, pending confirmation of room availability from 1:30 to 3.
sounds good.
Okay?
Thank
Thank
you.